Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 10 of the Former Action Guys podcast. I'm your host, Justin Cramer, and I'm here tonight. I was supposed to have my friend Emmett Lamb on. He was a lieutenant JG. Actually, I want to, you know what? I don't want to mess up his rank, whatever he was. Excuse me. At First Anglico. I met him, I think, right after he left there, actually. I met him while he was at EWTG PAC. But anyway, we were supposed to have a episode recorded together, and what happens is if I have somebody that's not here in Southern California, I live in San Diego. If they're not here and I can't come to them, then we do the interview over Skype or FaceTime, and then I have them record their side of the audio on their own. So either they take their laptop and we talk to each other on Skype with headphones on, so you can't hear my audio from the laptop. And then they set their phone to the side and record it on an MP3 app like GarageBand or a different app. And something happened on his end where the audio did not save correctly, or something happened. He tried to recover it. It didn't work out. It's unfortunate. We had a good 2.5 hour conversation about his time in the Navy, his time in the Naval Academy. He's a Naval Academy graduate. His time as a JTAC at First Anglico. And he was... he did a lot of interesting stuff. He did a deployment to Afghanistan. His team was was a team that got hit by a car bomb at their FOB. These really good stories, really good lessons learned from his deployment to Afghanistan. We were there about the same time in 2013. So we'll have him back on and we'll re-record the episode, but I didn't want to lose the continuity. And I did a vote. If you're not on my Instagram page, you should be. It's J Cramer Graphics. I did a vote on the stories there if I should go ahead and just record an episode with me, just me talking, give you guys some updates and stuff like that, or if I should just skip it for the week. And people voted, and here we are. We're recording the episode. So, which I'm totally cool with, because I think continuity is key, and I know there's some people that listen to it, they have a routine, and I feel like I don't want to fuck your routine up by not, having my episode ready and stuff like that. Unfortunate technical difficulty. It is what it is, I'm supposed to be recording, this week I'm supposed to record 3 different interviews, so that'll set me up for the next 3 weeks. So if one of them messes up, then, I should have 2 more to fall back on. So hopefully this isn't an issue anymore. But it is what it is. It's just like everything else in the world, you gotta adapt to the problem and move along. So here we are. And yeah. All right. So to get started, first off, as always, check out my website, J Cramer Graphics. Just know that I do freelance graphic design. If you go on the website, if you've never been on the website, it's almost all, not almost all, but mostly Anglico stuff. Just because when I got out of the Marine Corps, I noticed there was nobody was making any kind of Anglico gear, and dudes were hitting people up, on Facebook, like, hey, is anyone at the company? Can someone get me a t-shirt and stuff like that? And I'm like, this is fucked up. Like, there's a better way to do this. Guys want shirts, and you shouldn't have to go through some shady eBay company to get it from China like two months after you order it. So I figured I'd fill the gap. I started the website and everything like that. But although there's a lot of Anglico stuff, I can do other units. I can do other companies. I do civilian companies. I do graphic design. So if you have a logo already, send it to me, and we can put it on some stuff. Or if you need a logo made, hit me up, let me know what your idea is, and we'll get something worked out. But that's what I do. That's my full-time job, is that website, along with being a full-time student at San Diego State University. So just know that website's not some like little side cash thing. That's like my thing I'm eating off of, and plus obviously my GI Bill and stuff when I'm actually in school. Excuse me. So www.jcramergraphics.com. I felt really weird saying www right there, but whatever. Check out the custom orders tab if you've never been to the website, and you can kind of see what other organizations have done. Some of those logos I've created. Some of those logos have been sent to me. There's a little bit of mix. You can't really tell, but you can kind of see it. You can get an idea of the work I do. And yeah, so check out the website. Check out the Instagram page, J Cramer Graphics. I post, videos I think are funny or I think are cool. And yeah. And so check that out. And like I said, I did the poll to see if I should run the episode. And sometimes I give away stuff on there for like best, if somebody can like do best caption contests and stuff like that. So If you look at my Facebook page, I know a lot of people aren't really on Facebook anymore. They're pulling away from Facebook some. My Facebook page, I put news articles I think are interesting. And feel free to comment. I like to see dialogue on both sides. I've already been called, like, someone's told me I'm a left-wing something. Like, maybe they should unfollow my page. And I'm like, all right, man. Like, I guess so. Like, I think if anybody knew me, they know I'm definitely not left-wing, but I am common sense. So, you can't be loyal to a party. You got to be loyal to, like, your morals and, like, just what's right. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. Criticize when needed, I guess. But anyway, I don't feel I'm left wing, but I feel like I'm more right wing and moderate right wing. So, if you have any questions about that, hit me up on one of those pages and ask me about them. But yeah, so you can check out the Facebook. I post news articles and stuff like that. So today I posted, I don't know what is going on with this video. I posted a video of a fish getting put into it. Someone made a video. I don't know who made it. If you made it, hit me up, please, so you can get credit for it, because it's going big. On Instagram, it's only had 2,100 views, but on my Facebook right now, I posted it today, and let me look. It's at over 40,000 views, so if you made the video, please feel free to reach out, and I will give you full credit for it. But I didn't. I just thought it was I woke up this morning, and I was like, what am I going to post? And I put that video up because it kind of made me laugh. And I think it's not the most shared video. I don't think it is on my Instagram or my Facebook, but it's pretty close. So that's the kind of stuff I post. Anyway, that's my Facebook. Twitter, it's just me asking questions when I go on. I'm a journalism student, so one, I have to post certain stuff for my class. I use that as my profile. I might as well, since whatever. I just created it anyway, so there's not a lot of background or depth to it. But what you'll see is me getting on to where I go and read news articles and stuff like that, and then I'll just make comments. If people... I want to understand people's positions, and sometimes it just blows my mind. Like when you read, and this is on the left and the right. There's crazies everywhere, There's crazy. The fringe on both ends are killing us, but that is what it is. Anyway, Twitter, if you want to get on there, hit me up. It's former Action Guys, the number 4 MER Action Guys. Yeah. So, okay. Also on my Instagram tonight, I put up, hey, I told everyone, hey, I'm going solo on the podcast. So if you got any questions, shoot them my way and I'll answer them on the show. So this is one of the reasons why you should be following my Instagram if you're not. But I'm going to go ahead and pull these questions up right now as I'm sitting here recording this. And, all right. Here we go. Start off with the first one. This one is from... let me pull this up. This one's from Tropic_Thunderbeast. So Tropic_Thunderbeast asked, did you ever consider switching over to the Air Force to be a JTAC or CCT? This is actually a pretty common question. I feel like maybe it's not a common question. It's a common question amongst Marine JTACs that have been doing it for a little bit. Yes, I have definitely. I'm not recently, but I did while I was still in consider switching over to be a JTAC or see what my options were, at least within the Air Force and like the STS or something like that, which is their Special Tactics Squadron. It's, to me, the Marine Corps JTACs, I think overall are better, and that's just because we have more practice like integrating fires and stuff like that, doing call for fire, doing mortar work and stuff like that. I think we have more opportunities to do straight like integration and that's kind of what it's all about, really. Than there are Air Force counterparts, which I'm not, kicking them at all, because Air Force guys are great. I think they honestly get more air, I believe, than we do. So their JTAC skills are great. They just have a different way of controlling. They're more loose with the aircraft. They'll let the aircraft kind of do their own thing, where Marine JTACs are more controlling. We want to tell the aircraft where to hold in the sky, where to go, what altitude they're flying at, what ordnance they're going to drop, when they're going to drop it. That's like, because and it's hard for people outside of the community to understand that, but it's because we need to know all these details and be very specific, because yeah, the aircraft is doing this, but we also have like an artillery mission on the other side of the battlefield shooting into the same part, and we're trying to keep the safety of the aircraft in mind and stuff like that. So that's the kind of stuff that I think Marines do better. But yes, I did consider going into the Air Force or for their JTAC program or CCTs, and a lot of guys do. And I think what I do like about the Air Force is that their guys on that air side start from the beginning. Like when I come in, hey, that's all I'm doing. I'm you start out as a ROMAD, which is their radio operator, mechanic, and driver. That's what I've heard it's called. I don't know if that's 100%, so feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. You start out as a ROMAD, then you work your way up, and you're like a JFO in the Marine Corps kind of deal, a Joint Fires Observer, meaning you can call in fire missions and you can control air, but you can't actually give the clearance for aircraft. You have to have a JTAC to do that. So you move up from that, and then you move up into their other positions. They're the way they promote, and you get up into it and you become a JTAC, you stay in that job. That's the way it should be. The Marine Corps, I have no idea why. The Marine Corps brings up your 0861s, your fire support men, and train them up. Sometimes you become a JFO before you become a JTAC. Sometimes you don't. I wasn't. I was a lat mover, so I didn't really have a lot of time to go to JFO. But yeah, I just went straight to TCP school. A lot of guys go and become a JFO first, which is great because you get all that experience working with the aircraft and doing all this stuff. So it makes TCP school, the Tactical Air Control Party school up in Virginia or Coronado, a lot easier. But once you're a JTAC, the Marine Corps gets their 2 pumps out of you, which, they'll send you over to 2 deployments or something. Maybe, not even always. And some guys get HISted, meaning, I don't remember what it stands for, but that means you get pulled to go do recruiting duty, like you're forced to go do recruiting duty. Guys get switched out of the units, or they get put into a non-JTAC kind of billet and stuff like that. It's just, and then once you do a couple years, a lot of times you can get pulled over to be like a battalion fires chief or something. It's just, there's no continuity. So there's a few guys that become JTACs and now, okay, so the requirements have increased. So before you had to be a JTAC for, I think it's 1 year, and then you could, was it 1 year? I want to say it was 1 year, and then you could do your syllabus to become a JTAC evaluator. Which has its different controls. You have to do a combined sequential with aircraft. You have to do, teach classes and stuff like that. So there's a whole list of stuff you got to do, and you have to have a WTI, a weapons and tactics instructor, sit and evaluate you and write up your paperwork and stuff like that. So you wait a year. You can start your process to become a JTAC-E if, you're deemed even good enough to do that. And then once you've passed that, you're a JTAC-E. Well, if you get the opportunity, then you can go to WTI, which is another school, which is, where that's like the top gun of the Marine Corps, the weapons and tactics instructor course. The JTACs will go there, and they'll come out, and they'll be WTIs. And you have to wait, I think there's another wait limit, maybe not on the WTI part. Either way, now you become a JTAC, then you have to wait a year to become a JTAC-I, meaning you can do a lot of the same stuff that a JTAC-E can do, and a JTAC-I means JTAC instructor. You can do a lot of the stuff that a JTAC-E can do, but it's you can't do full evaluations on some guys and stuff like that. And then you have to wait another year to get to a JTAC-E. The problem here, and what I'm getting at, is that if the Marine Corps will move dudes around and they don't necessarily care that they're a JTAC, you could get to that pinnacle of like becoming an I or an E, and then get pulled away to go do something completely different. And it's like all this time and all this money was wasted, training you up and putting you in that position, and then they just pull you away. Which I knew a guy who went to TCP school, so Tactical Air Control Party school up in Virginia, and before he got his first control, he got pulled for recruiting duty. Before he got his first control after school, like he graduated school, he's a JTAC, and then he got back from school and they're like, hey, sorry, you got HISted. And then it was like, it's just, so the Air Force, that's not going to happen. Like if you're going to go be a JTAC in the Air Force, you're going to stay in that position. There may be some I may be off base a little bit. I'm speaking just out of experience, talking to guys and stuff like that. I would love to have an Air Force JTAC, CCT, anyone within STS or whatever to come on the podcast. So if anybody has a contact in that and they want to come on and further explain it, I think the audience would appreciate it. But I would tell guys that are considering lat moving to be an 0861 because they want to become a JTAC, because that's the easiest way to become a JTAC. I would tell you to seriously consider going into the Air Force, 100%. Just because even if you lat move to be a fire support man, yeah, you're going to be screened for sure. Any sergeant in the Marine Corps is getting, as an 0861, is getting screened to go to TCP school because everyone's so shorthanded, and same thing in the Air Force. But like I said, once you're in it, you're in it. And that's, and be aware, the decision to be in that job means, back-to-back deployments, always gone training. Like, it's great. It's a good time, especially if you're single. I wasn't single. I was married at the time, and it's, it can be detrimental. So understand what you're getting yourself into. The other cool thing is the Air Force. I know before I got out, I remember seeing an article, I think it was in the Air Force Times, saying that their JTACs with 1 year's experience were getting like $400 extra a month because of, the hazardous duty and the, tempo. And obviously that's something the Marine Corps is not doing. So anyway, good question. Thanks again for the question there. I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull up the name while I'm talking. Tropic_Thunderbeast. So, next question. This one came from AJOK, so AJAYOKAY. He just put 0311 versus 11 Bravo. So, for those outside of the military, 0311 is the Marine Corps infantryman or Marine Corps rifleman, and then 11 Bravo is the infantryman for the Army. I honestly, most of the time, all the infantry guys I worked with, most of the infantry, just like every job, there's some shitheads, but most of the dudes I worked with were good dudes. They knew what they were doing. I never heard a complaint about infantry Marines not doing what they do, which is fuck shit up. They're really good at it. They just go in and you put a bunch of 18 to 20 whatever year olds caged up, ready to go, tell them how to fight every day. That's all they do. And then you release them, and good things happen for our mission, and bad things happen to the enemy. And there's tons of stories out there about Marine infantrymen, and they've proven themselves on the battlefield. And again, like I said, there's shitbags everywhere. So there's definitely some shitbag infantrymen. There's definitely some shitbag like 0861s. But overall, I have a very great impression of Marine Corps infantrymen. I don't think the legacy is tarnished at all. I think there's some, I don't know. Yeah, I think the legacy is good. I'm trying to think of bad stuff that Marine Corps infantrymen have done that I know about. I mean, you hear about like the peeing on the dead bodies and stuff like that, and inappropriate for sure, but is that the worst thing you hear about in a war? I mean, that's fucked up just because you're kind of doing it and like it's after the fact, but I mean, anybody that's been in combat knows that there's some crazy stuff that goes on, and I'm not even going to get into that whole story because I wasn't there or anything like that, but there's very few things. I don't know if the guy that threw a puppy off a cliff was an infantryman. He might have been. But anyway, 0311 versus 11 Bravo. 11 Bravos. The few that I've met seem like they're pretty good to go. I worked with the 501st at JRTC in 2000. I don't remember, 15. Very minimally though, because I was there too. I was attached. There was also a British company, infantry company there, and I was attached to the British company as their JTAC. So I didn't really get to work a lot with the 11 Bravos, but I think they do their job. We give the Army a lot of shit, and we always look at, Relaxin' Jackson as their boot camp and stuff like that. We laugh about it but that's where all their like comm dudes and like dudes, like data and stuff like that, admin, that's where they go to boot camp. I think Fort Benning is where your infantry guys for the Army go to boot camp, and it's, from what I've been told, it's a lot different than Fort Jackson. But again, professional. I don't have any reason to hate on them or anything like that, and it'd be hard for me to say. I mean, obviously, I'm going to tell you the Marine Corps infantryman's better than your normal 11 Bravo, but I will say for sure. Okay, for sure. I believe the Marine Corps infantryman is better than the 11 Bravo. However, I don't believe that your average Marine Corps infantryman is better than like a Ranger. Like, people always like, oh, Ranger, he's a Ranger, must be nice to know what it's like to go through boot camp. And it's like, okay, dude, like, if a dude has a scroll on his shoulder, like, he's done way more than the Crucible. You know what I'm saying? Like, those dudes are legit. So I would definitely say Army Rangers, probably definitely better than 0311. So if my kid, and this is how I was telling somebody, I can't remember who I was telling this about, or telling this to, but if my kid decided, like, hey, I want to join the military, I'd be like, what do you want to do? Okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to do something where you can have good job prospects when you get out, or do you want to do like something where you have cool stories? Because that's kind of how it is. You can have good job prospects as an infantryman or a Ranger or Marine, whatever, artilleryman like I am, not artilleryman, but a forward observer. It's just a little bit harder because you're not gaining, like these hard and soft skills that you would like working in an admin section. So I would tell him, if he wants to get involved in SOCOM, to go into the Army as a Ranger and try to get a Ranger contract into the Army, and then from there he can stay in the Rangers, or he can go to SF, or he can go to Delta or something like that. One of those things. He has other options. To me, seeing what our recon guys do, which badass, and I have one of my friends who says he's going to be on the show, but I'm going to go out to Vegas. I'm going to try to go out to Vegas and actually interview him in person. Awesome dudes. And I just feel like they're underutilized, and that's the shitty part, is that they get all this awesome training, and they're super capable guys. Recon is highly capable, but nobody wants to use them. Nobody in the joint world, recon doesn't even kind of come up on the radar really, unless there's everyone else is kind of tasked, just because they don't fall under SOCOM, and I don't know. It's just, I don't know. So if my kid was like, I want to join the Marines and go into recon or whatever, I'd be like, no, dude, don't do that. Or if you're coming in under a recon contract, do your first enlistment and then try to go over to MARSOC, just because that's where the real work is. Like, no one wants to go and practice for football every day and then not actually get to play in the game. And your odds of playing in the game are a lot higher if you're going to be in like MARSOC or something like that. So if it's something like that, I would tell them, if you definitely want to get work, go into the Army, because the Army has a bigger sphere of influence around the world. Like, their commands are a lot bigger and stuff like that, and they have a lot more people, so they're utilized in a lot more ways. So, good question, but overall, I think Marine Corps, if you're looking infantry to infantry, I think our Marine Corps infantrymen are better. And that's just because I'm biased. I'd love to see two guys, go at it, like have like a competition, like a grappling match, have like a blindfolded like weapon teardown match, a couple different skills, or do like a super squad competition with a invited Army unit. That'd be cool. Something like that. But anyway, so Ever Always, all one word, Ever Always, says, explain why Marines are so prideful that they will hold themselves back personally. Okay, so I had to think about this question for a second when I read it. And I'm taking it like this. So, explain why Marines are so prideful that they will hold themselves back personally. One way to take it is, there are guys that don't want to get out of the military because they don't think that they're unsure of themselves, or I don't know, they have a pride thing. Like, they don't want to get out and feel like they're kind of left behind a little bit. Because you get in the military, you come into the Marine Corps, you do 4 years, you do 8 years, especially if you do more than 4 years. If you do 8 years or 12 years like I did, you get super comfortable. You're like, this is my job. I don't even worry about when I'm getting paid because I know it's coming. Like, I know exactly when I'm getting paid. Like, I know exactly what I'm going to get. I know it's going to come no matter what. Even, we always hear about the shutdown and, they're going to not pay the troops. Like, okay, that's happened like once, I think, and the odds of that happening are super slim. So your job security is a lot better. And you get to a point where some guys kind of hate their job. Maybe not necessarily hate their job, but they just hate the environment. But they don't want to get out and have to start over. And I would tell you, as someone that got out after 12 years and kind of started over, it's not that bad. I mean, yeah, you got to work and stuff. Duh. But overall, it's a good time. I'm having a good time. And the way I looked at it before I got out, when people were like, dude, you're going to get out after 12 years? Like, you're going to give up all this? And I'm like, dude, first off, one, I just went on a MEU where my only job, basically, because they had no way to utilize me for anything, was to put me on watch twice a week. 2 12-hour shifts twice a week. That's all I did. So it's hard for me to justify telling my kid goodbye for 7 months when I'm doing that to go, okay, I'm going to go stand watch twice a week and then, work out twice a day because I have nothing else to do because I'm on a ship. So I looked at that and I'm like, this is fucked up. Like, 5 deployments in, and this is the kind of shit I'm doing right now. Like, and I know, it's messing with your family's, not just my kid, but like everybody's psychology, their mental state every time I leave. Cause they don't understand. Even if I'm just like, hey mom, I'm going on a MEU. Like, mom doesn't know that a MEU is like basically me floating around on water doing almost nothing. Like, anybody that's outside of the military doesn't fully understand the boredom and the lack of cool stuff to do. That is the majority of our lives. So anyway, I looked at it like, I can't justify telling my kid goodbye again for 7 months to do some bullshit like this. And when people are like, I can't believe you're getting out, man. Like, you're at 12 years. And I'm like, dude, what's the benefit anymore of staying in? Go to 20 years. Yeah, you get a retirement. How much is the retirement? The retirement's not bad. It's half of your, half of your highest base pay that you reached or something like that. You had to keep that. There's some way to do it, but it's basically half of your base pay. But if you look at your base pay isn't like crazy high. Maybe you only get out as a gunny. Maybe you get out as a master sergeant. Maybe you get out as a first sergeant. Obviously each one higher you're gonna get more out of it, and it's gonna be more valuable. But to me, I was like, I could do that and get out and make whatever, $1,500, $200, $2,000 a month or whatever the retirement would be. Or I could get out now, stay in and make that, when I retire. Or I could get out now and find a new job and start over and just make real money in the civilian world. Like, yeah, it's going to struggle at first, but it's exponential. Like, the growth is exponential. In the Marine Corps, you're waiting to get promoted. In the real world, you're also waiting to get promoted, but it's even more so on your own skills and your people skills and your abilities in your job and stuff like that. Whereas the Marine Corps is like, oh, look, you're a fast runner. We're going to get promoted. And this guy can't run. He's not going to get promoted. Well, okay, maybe there's more to it than just being able to run fast and having PME done. So anyway, I'm rambling on because I think it's it's ridiculous. But what I'm getting at is what I looked at before I got out. I was like, you know what? There's definitely stupider people than me that are surviving in the real world. So if I get out, like, I know I'm gonna make it because I'm not an idiot. Or if I am, I know I'm not as dumb as that guy and he's somehow making it, so that's kind of the mentality I went through. And you have to just kind of have to check your ego, when you walk out and you get into a different world, because so everyone tells you like, hey, you're going to get out, you're going to go work for this company and make 6 figures. It's easy and blah, 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 blah. Maybe, probably more so if you're like a logistics dude or something like that. But the odds are that's not going to happen because the people in the real world don't know what we do. when I tell someone I'm a fire support man, they think I'm a fireman. You know, they thought, oh, you fight fires. Oh, that's cool. And I'm like, no, that's not it at all. It's easier for some of the non-combat arms to explain their jobs and stuff like that. But for combat arms guys, it can be a little harder. But you just have to be able to say, you know, you have to explain it in real terms, like, yeah, okay, I was in combat, and I did this, and I did that, and I made these decisions, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so it works well under stress. You know, that's kind of deal. Can make deadlines. Can meet deadlines. Stuff like that. So I think here, so explain why Marines are so prideful that they will hold themselves back personally. I think that's one way to answer that question, that people don't want to get out and start over. They don't want to feel like they're like, man, I invested 12 years of my life into this. But when you look at it, like when people are like, hey, man, like 12 years, only 8 more years. I'm like, dude, only 8 more years. Like, think about that. That's 8 fucking years. Like, that's a long time. That's not a short amount of time. You know, that's like 10% of people's lives, maybe more, depending on how healthy you are. So, and that's how you got to kind of look at it. Like, do you want to just not be happy? You know, like, not, the happiest I ever was with my guys on the OP. That was it. That was the happiest I ever was in the Marine Corps. That's what I was supposed to be doing. That was my, you know, that was my job. And when it stopped being that, when it started being more office shit, and when I got sent to the MU as a fires chief, which was like non-JTAC work, like I had to like try to justify to a OPSO that did not utilize his enlisted Marines at all why I needed to go ashore to get controls to maintain currency so that I could maintain my JTAC evaluator qualification. Like he couldn't fathom like why I needed to do that. It's just like you get kind of tired of dealing with people like that. You know, you're like, dude, you're making some fucked up decisions, like, and it's like you don't even understand the job that the people that are working for you are doing and what's required of them. So anyway, man, I'm just like venting a little bit from this question. The other thing I would say also, explain why Marines are so prideful that they hold themselves back personally, is that we don't ask questions. Like, you don't want to be the person that doesn't know. Nobody wants to be the person that doesn't know. And yeah, okay, I get that. I'm that way too. You know, I don't want to be the guy that doesn't know. But perfect example is, so my first semester out of school, my major requires that I have to do a foreign language. Not just my first semester, but in my first semester, so I had to pick a foreign language. And I thought about it, and I was like, man, I could do Spanish. I mean, that's fucking easy. I'm in Southern California. I could basically literally walk anywhere within 20 feet almost and practice, you know, because I have a burrito shop right here. My neighbor's a Mexican dude, totally cool guy, you know, like, easy. But of course, I take the fucking hard route, and I decided to go with Italian. Not as bad, those of you that listened to the last episode, not as bad as Nate deciding to learn Mandarin Chinese, which blows my mind, but I went with Italian. And, you know, the major requires 3 semesters of Italian, or 3 semesters of a foreign language. So I got out, and here right outside of Camp Pendleton in Oceanside is Miracosta Community College, or it's just Miracosta College, but it's a community college. And they have a program there because a lot of the Cal State just changed their requirements where for the majors that required a foreign language, that they're only down to 2 semesters. So what Miracosta did was they put, hey, we'll do 2 semesters in 1. We're going to double up the coursework, and you're just going to knock out both semesters in 1. Well, they didn't tell any of us that. We all showed up to our first day of class, and the professor told us. And we're all like, oh, man, like, fuck. It's like 2 3-hour classes a week, along with an assignment online 6 days a week. And then, obviously, the test and all that stuff. So that was supposed to make up for having the second semester. And it sucked. It was like, fuck, man, it's a lot of work, you know. And then I get to San Diego State University. I got accepted to San Diego State University, and my major requires that 3rd semester. So I'm like, man, like, that was cool that they did it like that, but how much is this going to fuck me when I get to an actual university and I'm sitting here trying to do Italian, you know, this level of Italian. And I just remember coming into the classroom and sitting down, and we're sitting there, and teacher comes in and just immediately just starts speaking Italian, pure Italian. And I'm like, fuck. I've only basically, in reality, I've had one semester, and then I had the entire summer off, and then now I'm back at it. And she just comes in speaking pure Italian, no English, and I just remember like, oh my god, I'm screwed. And we had to go around the room introducing ourselves, mi chiamo Justin, stuff like that, and we had to like kind of explain a couple other things. And like the third guy she got to, he's like, I have no idea. He's like, I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what you're asking me. And I was like, thank God I'm not the only moron in this class. So it comes around to me, and I kind of stumble through it. And some of these people are speaking great Italian. There's a girl in the class that was born in Italy and lived there for a while. There was a girl that lived there for 2 years. There's a dude that lived there for 2 years, and they speak great Italian. And I'm like, fuck, I'm in the wrong class. And we started the lessons, and it was just like, fuck, man, I'm so lost here. Like, we're talking about conjugating things and doing this different things, and I'm just no idea. And the professor could tell. She's like, Justin, are you getting this? And is that not the worst thing ever, to just be called out in class? And she's Italian. She is from Italy, so that's how she said it. She's like, Justin, are you getting this? Kind of like that. And I'm like, man, I feel like an idiot right now. And I'm like, no, I don't understand this, And I told her, I was like, I don't understand this, and I don't understand this, this, and this. And then someone else was like, yeah, I don't either. Like, I agree with that. And then I'm like, thank God, again. And anyway, so what it came to is, whenever she had a lesson, she'd go around and make, hey, is everyone getting this? And no one would say anything. And then she would look at me last. And almost every time she'd be like, Justin, are you getting this? And I would say, yeah, I'm getting it, or no, I'm not. And I'd explain why. And what had happened is she realized that almost nobody in the class was getting it. Like 4 or 5 of the 15 or 20 people we have in our class were actually understanding the lesson, but nobody was saying anything. So what I'm getting at is, don't be prideful. Like, if you don't understand something, and this is it's a foreign language, and it's easy to justify that, and maybe not in an industrial job or somewhere where you feel like you should be more experienced within that field. Like, let's say you come out of the Marine Corps being a finance Marine, and you want to go get into finance in the real world. Well, finance in the real world, I assume, is going to be a little bit different than being a finance in the Marine Corps. And even just terms and stuff like that, I believe some of it's going to be different. So, stow the pride a little bit, ask the questions, and become good at what you're doing. Because if you don't ask the question, and then you just kind of stumble through it, you either look like an asshole that doesn't know what he's doing, or you look like someone that has too much pride to ask for help. And that's just, that's just not the way to do it. So, good question. Thanks again, ever always. That's kind of my view on it. Just don't screw yourself with your own pride. I got 2 more questions here. And one is from Hubbard 1080p. He says, what's one story that epitomizes your career? And that's tough, man. That is a tough question. He sent it to me earlier, and I was like, I messaged him back. I'm like, dude, that's a good question. I'm going to have to think about it. And I honestly don't know, because I just had I feel like I had a weird path, because I came in, open contract, did Motor T for 3 years. But even at Motor T, I went to Maintenance Battalion, which, for people that have been to Maintenance Battalion, that's like where you don't do anything but turn wrenches all day. It's a like 7 to 5 job, pulling motors out of Humvees, pulling trannies out, replacing stuff on the LVSs and 7 tons and stuff like that, or LVSRs now. And you're just working all day. It's like factory work almost, and it sucks. I mean, the people, again, the job sucked. The people were cool for the most part. You always have your good friends and stuff like that. But I got an opportunity to go work on the ITV, the internally transportable vehicle, and the 120 millimeter mortar program when it was still in its. They were going through all the validation and testing it and stuff like that. So, I got pulled to go do something like that, which is not the normal path. I got to go to Alaska. I was a motor T mechanic shooting 120 millimeter mortars. They were letting me shoot it. They were like, "Hey, here's 50 cal ammo." I'm up on top of this thing shooting a 50 cal. These guys are all dudes that are getting ready to get out. They got fapped over to it. I'm a boot, and they're just like, "Oh, you've never shot one?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm with maintenance battalion." They're like, "Oh, here, fucking, I don't even care." Like, dudes don't even want to shoot because they've shot it, so many times. And so I got to do some pretty cool stuff. So it's hard to say one job or one story that I have that like kind of sums up my career. But what I do want to talk about, if anybody has questions, about stuff I did or, where I've been, what I did in different units, people I worked with, maybe not people I worked with. Let's not do that. That could end up not being good. Feel free to hit me up. Feel free to hit me up on all the stuff I threw out earlier, the Instagram, the Twitter, on the website. You can hit me up on the email. Ask the questions. I'll bring them up on here and try to answer them as best I can. But the story I want to tell tonight, okay? This is about a guy I knew. Okay, so I got to 10th Marines. I got to 10th Marines in 2009. I got back from Iraq with Second Supply Battalion. I think we were Second Supply Battalion. I was attached to Supply Battalion as a mechanic. Got back from Iraq in like August of 2009, I believe, and then had orders to go to 210 in November of 2009. Got to 210 in November. Met Juan Delara, Sergeant Delara, Gunny Klein. He was a staff sergeant at the time. I can't remember the other chief's name. I kind of feel like a scumbag. He would never speak to me. Like, I felt like the dude hated me until I saw him like 2 years. He left the unit like a month or two after I got there. He had orders. And I saw he had orders somewhere else. And I saw him. We were both in Kyrgyzstan at the same time for deployment. And I think I kind of, once I was a boot. I was a sergeant that didn't know anything about the job. So I was a boot. And so he treated me as such. And that was probably one of the coolest things is when I got to Kyrgyzstan and I saw him again, and I could tell that the relationship had changed. He realized I knew what I was doing, and I'm obviously doing all right. And we sat there and had like a really long conversation. And I'm like, dude, this guy's said about 8 words total to me in the 2 months that I worked with him. So anyway, so I get to 210, and people are trying to show me how to do stuff. Like I said, Juan Delara, he taught me how to plot on a map. I didn't even know how to find a location or do anything, man, because I was motor T. I was a junior Marine motor T mechanic that, didn't go on convoys. I wasn't with a unit where I was driving around. I was with maintenance battalion. I turned wrenches all day. I worked in the factory. So I had very little actual combat, kind of skills. I just got promoted to sergeant right before I got there. So it wasn't like I was a dude that had been walking around. I'd been to sergeant's course or anything like that. No, I hadn't done anything. I've never done PME. I didn't do PME the entire time I was in the Marine Corps. I didn't do zero PME. So anyway, so I get put under, at the time, Staff Sergeant Klein. He was the battalion or regimental fires chief. He was the 210 chief. And him and Delara and dudes like Kalo, Rugg, guys like that, they were the ones that we'd go to the field, and they showed me how to do everything. They taught me how to be a fire support man, because I did 9 months at 210 before I even went to MOS school. So I did a brag. Yeah, I did a brag. I did multiple field ops. For those that don't know, brag is a month-long field op that happens twice a year. We 10th Marine Regiment, I don't know if they still do it. I know they stopped for a little bit, but the whole regiment convoys over to Fort Bragg from Camp Lejeune, and then they just shoot and piss off everybody that lives around Fort Bragg for a month. So anyway, so these guys are the ones that are showing me how to do all this stuff, and that's the only I credit my abilities at the time as being a fires chief to Gunnery Sergeant Klein after he'd gotten promoted, because just I can't imagine a fire support man with a lot more knowledge than he had. And I thought he was a fair person. I thought he was approachable. I thought the way he ran the shop was strict but fair. and him and I got along real well, and he taught, going to the field. This guy would, I remember seeing him fall asleep on radio watch. Not radio watch. He'd fall asleep in the FSCC tent, the Fire Support Coordination Center, Fire Support Coordination Center tent, which is where like all the approval of missions and stuff like that go. When we were done shooting for the day and stuff like that, we were cold. The range was cold for the night, and everybody's racking out. He would go in and sit with the radio watch and read the 3TAC 06. Man, I'm probably messing up the pub numbers. The different fire support coordination pubs that we had. And fall asleep at his little field desk, reading pubs. And I'm just like, dude, this guy, like, he has the answers. Everybody respected him. The battalion commander respected him. The battalion XO respected him. Other officers respected him. And I'm like, that's the way it should be. You should be an enlisted guy that gains respect from the people because you know your fucking job. And, I tried to carry that on to everything I did in the future. There was a few guys that had an impact on me at 210, and that Gunnery Sergeant Klein was one of them. Like I said, Juan Delara, Sergeant Delara, he was the fires chief for 3-2. It was 3-2 at the same time in 2010, 2011 time frame. And then like Jason Kalo, I remember Kalo, he got killed in Marjah, during the push into Marjah. He was with 1-6. But I remember one time we were at, and this isn't even the story I was going to get into, but whatever. One time we were at OP5. I think we were at OP5. I can't remember. And this is one of my first field ops, as a fire support man. And I'm like, all right, man, we're out here in the field. I was working because I was training up. I was a sergeant, so I was more senior. So not only was I doing OP time, but I was also working in the Fire Support Coordination Center tent, learning, what goes on there with the radios and stuff like that, what goes on with the approval processes and stuff. And I remember Kalo wasn't even supposed to be in the field. And I want to say him and Rugg came out. And I'm sitting in the tent freezing. Like I got there in November of 2010 or 2009, like I said. So this was I think this was in December, and it is cold at night in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina in December. Freezing. And I remember him walking in, and this dude's like, "What's up, man?" And I'm like, "Hey, what's up, dude?" And I'm like, "Dude, where's your fucking?" You're like, "You're not wearing a skivvy shirt." This dude never wore a skivvy shirt ever. And I remember I was like, dude, aren't you fucking cold? And he's like, bro, I'm a sergeant of Marines. I don't get cold. And I was like, it sounds cheesy as fuck, but that was one thing that kind of stuck with me for a long time, and I don't know why. And I'm like, okay, I get that. And it just became like, I don't know, I use that as my motivation to just embrace the suck. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's fucking cold out. Yeah, it sucks. I'm not putting a shirt on until I need to. I'm not putting a sweatshirt on until I need to, because, and you learn that in mountain warfare training and stuff too, that, you want to stay comfortably cool and stuff like that. But what really stuck with me was that thought process. Like, I'm a sergeant of Marines. I don't get fucking cold, and that was like, and he got cold. Everybody gets fucking cold. But he was saying, like, I'm fine. I'm gonna always look ready to go. I'm always prepared. If someone looks at me and they're like, I don't know, it's a mindset to be always ready, and to just, I don't know, be comfortable in your own environment. And I don't know, but that was one of those things that just kind of stuck with me. But what I'm getting to, and like I said, I didn't really necessarily mean to get into that story and stuff like that, but what I'm getting at now is that I got assigned a team. They're like, hey, Cramer, you're doing a great job. Hey, we want you to go with 3rd Battalion, 6th Marines on their deployment to Marjah in 2011. They're like, hey, you're going to be the fire support chief for the battalion. And I was I was bummed. Honestly, to be 100%, because I had lat moved over, and I wanted to be a forward observer, on patrols, out doing missions and stuff like that. And I knew if I was a fires chief, I could probably squirrel some missions. I could probably get in and go out a couple times during the deployment, but that wasn't going to be my main job. My main job was going to be sitting in the fire support corps or the command operations center, the COC, and just waiting on something to happen, approving fire missions as they come through, planning fire missions and stuff, which is an important job. But I felt like, because I originally wanted to come in as infantry and I missed, that the first 4 years or first 3 years as being a mechanic, I missed those junior Marine parts where you actually learn your job. You're out in the OP or you're digging the hole and you're living in it and like stuff like that. And that's what I wanted to do, because that's what I wanted to do when I came in. And, as a sergeant and as you get higher, you start pulling away from that more and more. And so I was kind of bummed. So they were like, hey, you're going to be this. And I'm like, man, because most guys, they wouldn't send them. If you were a lat mover, your first deployment was going to be as a scout, as a forward observer. And you would go down to a line company and stuff like that. But I think I did all right. I picked up the job pretty quickly, I feel. And I think we probably didn't have another person at that time just because of the deployment cycle was kind of quick at that point. So they chose me to be the fires chief, and we put together my team. And so anyway, so I got this team together. I got, my FIST or fire support team. And it's similar to the firepower control team, but it's just bigger. It's like more like the SALT, the Supporting Arms Liaison team. I've got a forward observer officer, an 0802 artillery officer, and then a fire support man, and then a radio operator. And they will go to each company in 3rd Battalion, 6th Marines. And then I have the Marines and my officer, where we would run the headquarters section, and we would be the guys that are working in the command operations center. At some point in there, we got a guy. I got word. They're like, "Hey, you got a new guy, and he's up at the CP, and come get him." So I was like, "Hey, Corporal so and so, go fucking get the new guy. I'm doing other shit." So he goes up there to go get him and start getting his paperwork in line and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, I need to go up to the CP to do the command post to do something. I don't remember what it was. But I go up there, and I see the new guy. And they're like, hey, this is Private Lemelle. And I'm like, Private Lemelle, what's up, man? Like, how's it going? And he was, super respectful, standing at parade rest, and like, no, good afternoon, Sergeant, blah, 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 like, whatever. And I'm like, Private, man, what happened? And he's like, you're not supposed to be a private coming out of the schoolhouse. And he's like, I got in some trouble, Sergeant. And I'm like, all right, cool, man. I didn't care, whatever. I left, and one of the guys was like, hey, you got to look out for him. He's a fighter. And I'm like, is that what he got in trouble for? And someone said that he had gotten in trouble for, and I'm not going to get into what he got, his stuff, but it wasn't for that. It was some personal stuff, and I kind of saw his side of it, but, good idea, bad planning kind of deal. But he got NJP'd in the schoolhouse, and I feel like if you asked any of my guys, I'm a pretty fair person, and when I get a new guy, even if they come in, Private Lemelle comes into my shop, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt that he knows, he's a good person. Everyone makes mistakes. You get NJP'd, non-judicial punishment. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, that means those are your minor mistakes. You're not going to you can't go to jail, but you can be confined to the barracks, so like living in a hotel room basically. But he paid for his mistake wherever, at the schoolhouse, and then he got to us, so that was over. To me, that was over. And people tell me like, oh, look out for him and stuff like that, like, hey, thanks, cool. But I always told guys, like, all I expect you to do is be on time, be where you're supposed to be, and be a fucking adult. It's just like, be on time and be there when you're supposed to be there, and be an adult. If I tell you to do something, do it. And know that I'm looking out for you. Like, I may be telling you to do some stuff, and you don't understand the full reason, but I'm always looking out for the dudes, and I'm always looking for a reason to send guys home and stuff like that, so you can have time off and everything like that. So anyway, Lemelle comes in, same deal. Hey, man, I give him the spiel. Hey, just be a good dude, be on time, be where you're supposed to be, and we'll have no problems. And he got assigned to my headquarters section. He was going to be my FATEDS operator. We had talked about it in this episode that got messed up, but it's the Advanced Field Artillery Targeting Data System or something like that. I think that's correct. If it's not, Mr. Mac, hit me up and let me know. But so that's the computer system that you use to approve fire missions and stuff that sends the data down to the gun line and stuff like that, or it sends it down to the battery, the firing unit, and then they process it and send it to the gun line. So anyway, so he was going to be my FATEDS operator on the deployment, and so we do our workup. They go to 29 Palms and deploy, they go to 29 Palms to do EMV, the Enhanced Mojave Viper, which is the pre-deployment training. It's like almost a month long, or right at a month long, that all the battalions do before they head out. While they were doing that, though, because I was a lat mover and I was still, I think at this point I'd only been in the MOS for about a year. My battalion commander wanted me to go to MAGTF Fire's support, or MAGTF Fire's Chiefs course. And MAGTF is Marine Air Ground Task Force, and so that's like the next level school within my job. So I went to that school, learned the chief stuff, which was cool because Gunny Klein, my chief, left our unit. We were in 29 Palms in November. Yeah, so it was November of 2010, and then he left right after that, or I think maybe December or January, and then he went out to Fort Sill to become the Fire Support Chief Course instructor. So a couple months later, here I am. I finish up Bragg, and then I go out to Chief's course, and my chief is now my instructor for Chief's course. So it was cool. He didn't give me any slack. Obviously, probably gave me a harder time, but that's cool. And like I said, he's a super smart guy. And I think anybody that knows him probably would say the same thing, that knows him as a fire support man, that you got to know, he's one of those guys you got to know what you're talking about, because he'll tell you you're wrong. It doesn't matter what your rank is. He'll be like, no, that's incorrect, and this is why, and this is what you should do. And I think he has full authority to do that. So anyway, I go to Chief's course. My guys are at EMV. They come back. I come back, and then I get attached to the unit. Hey, we're going to 3rd Battalion, 6th Marines. I come over. I get there like the day before pre-deployment leave. No one knows who I am because they were all at EMV together. The guy one of my friends was standing in for me, one of the staff sergeants, just as the Fire's chief while I was at Chief's course. And so I come back and I show up, and they're all like, who's this guy? And I'm like, I'm the Fire's chief, blah, blah, blah. These are my dudes. Well, anyway, we go to Afghanistan, and we get there. We're there for a little bit, and then our weapons company, they have their own AO, so they have their own area of operations. Normally, your weapons company gets broken up to support your line company. So they take, because that's where your machine gunners and your mortarmen and stuff like that, you take teams from that, and they go and reinforce your infantry, your O3, I don't know how a better way to explain it than your line company. So your weapons company doesn't normally have their own AO. Well, in this case, they did. We had a large AO because this is Marjah 2011, and we were kind of retrograding a little bit. And 3rd Battalion, 6th Marines also had Charlie 1-6 attached to them and Alpha 1-9. And weapons had their own AO. So that means we had 6 company areas of operations that our battalion headquarters was responsible for running, like making sure that the companies were doing what they were supposed to be doing, and then obviously the company headquarters making sure their platoons are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And there was a gap in fire support at weapons company AO. They were in what is the name of that area? Sistani. They were in Sistani, just west of Marjah. And I was like, hey, look, Lemelle's working here, but I mean, I don't really need him. Like, I can do the missions, I can do this, this isn't a big deal. So I got approval to send him down to the weapons company, and he was super pumped because he was pissed also. He got there and he did all this work, and now they're like, hey, you're going to be the box bitch, you're going to go work on the FATEDs, and he, any good 0861 is not going to be happy about that. So he wasn't very happy about it, and when I told him, like, hey man, you're getting in the game. You're going down to weapons. You're going to be, there's no officer, there's no radio operator from, it's just you. You're going there and you'll link up with the JTAC over there. And that's kind of your dude to go through, but you're kind of on your own. Just go be a good FO. And Lemelle, this dude shined. This guy that people are like, look out, and this is my whole point is that, don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge by somebody from their past experience and stuff like that. Because Lemelle had one of the most amazing things. So one of the days that we were out there, I'm sitting there in front of my computer, and what for people that don't know, what I did working in the command center at that time is I had like 3 or 4 laptops sitting in front of me, all on different kind of secret networks and stuff like that. And they just did different stuff. And then and next to me on the wall, we had like 4 big screen TVs. One had like a blimp view on it. One had aircraft. If we had aircraft on station and we could get their feed, we'd put it on that. We'd have UAV feed, so your unmanned aerial vehicles like your Reapers or Predators, your drone. We'd have those feeds. We'd have cameras up from the different bases. You could see like they'll put a camera on a tower and look around the area, so we could see all that stuff. That way we could, if something was to happen, we can react quickly. Like maybe a company comes under attack. We don't necessarily need them to call and radio us to let us know if we're paying attention, because we can see it happening. So yeah, they're going to tell us, they're going to give us some good specifics that we do require, but at the same time, we can already start prepping stuff by just watching. And one day we're just sitting there, and I'm waiting for something to happen, because that's what happens in war. It's mostly boring. And I just get like, oh, so-and-so's in contact. They said whatever the number was, and that was the identification for the patrol that was out. And we, once someone takes contact, what I would do as a fire support man is I would open up my Google Earth program, and then I would take their location. We would get their location. I would plug it into the computer, pop it up, populate it on the map, and then do a direction. There's a direction and distance tool on the Google Earth. And I would use that and whatever direction and distance they sent back to where they were taking contact from, and I would measure it out, and then I would get the grid for that, and then I would give it to the S2 guy. He would direct any kind of like Reaper or Predators or whatever that we had in that area over to check it out. I'll be honest, almost all the time it was wrong, and I'm like, dude, these fucking grunts don't know how to use the fucking, they don't know how to give a good direction and distance. And I take it for granted that as a forward observer, every forward observer, and when you're in the field or whatever, you always have a compass on you. It's like that's like your most basic tool. So if you can't give a direction and distance, you're kind of worthless. So anyway, I wasn't expecting anything accurate, because it's never is. So they give me the direction and distance. I plug everything in. I pull out a grid. I give it to the S2 guy. And we just happen to have a Reaper on station, which is a Reaper is one of the larger UAVs, one of the drones that we have, and it carries. I want to say they carry like 2 bombs and a Hellfire missile or something like that. There's different loadouts, but I want to say that was like our standard. But anyway, so we get the call. Hey, they're taking contact. Here's direction distance. I plot it. I get the grid. Give it to the S2 guy. He sends it up to the Reaper, the drone operator, and they shoot their camera over into that direction, and it's like spot on. Like zoom in. You got 3 dudes attacking this patrol, right? And these 3 guys, we saw them at the very end of their like ambush that they were doing. And what they did, this patrol was moving along, and the enemy opened up with saws, the squad automatic weapon, and RPGs. And we found out later that the saws had come from, at some point earlier in the war, where they had attacked a British convoy. And one of the vehicles that they got was an armory truck. So they had one of, basically an American-made saw that the Brits would use. And, or something like that. But that's what they were attacking with saws and RPGs. And like I said, the direction and distance was perfect. So the grid was like almost perfect. So we get it, and we see these 3 dudes, and we get them as they're trying to break contact. So these 3 guys jump on 2 motorbikes. So now we got to make a decision. And they're not going the same direction, because they never do. They always split up. That way it gives them better odds. So obviously we followed the vehicle that had the 2 guys on it. So we're chasing it with the Reaper. We're watching it with the camera, We wait for them to get into an open spot, and then we do a strike and take out those 2 targets. And then we come around, we try to find the third guy, try to see if we can come back and scan and find him, but he's already gone. He's probably in some village, like gone into a building or something like that, so we didn't even worry about him. But I'm sitting there, and I'm like, dude, fuck yeah, we just got these 2 guys. And the S2 guy was like, bro, he's like, that shit was accurate as fuck. And I was like, yeah, man. I was like, you know what? I was like, I bet that was Lemelle. I was like, I bet he's got a vector dagger out there with him. And because that's what we use. And the vector is the laser rangefinder, and the dagger, I don't remember, it's DAGR, but I don't remember what the acronym actually is. But it's basically a ruggedized GPS, a military GPS. And you can plug that into the laser rangefinder, and it'll give you a grid. It'll give you a location up to, pretty accurate. It'll give you a pretty accurate grid. So I'm like, dude, Lemelle just uses vector dagger. Like, that's sick. But I don't even know that it's him. I'm just kind of guessing because it was like no one else has been this accurate. It's got to be one of the forward observers. So a couple days later, let me make sure that's all I wanted to cover on that. Yeah, so a couple days later, I'm at Camp Hansen, which is in Marjah, just north of the city center in Marjah, and I think we're at Hansen at that time. We might not have been. We might have still been at FOB Marjah. Either way, Lemelle comes walking up. He had come in with a resupply convoy that was coming, and they had, I think it was probably some meeting or something like that. But anyway, he came by and he came to check in with me. And I was like, what's up, man? Like, hey, dude, was that you out there the other day? And he's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, it was. He's like, fuck, man. He's like, we were just walking, and then, start taking contact. He's like, everyone just jumps down. We're behind this dirt berm, and they're just firing. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, did you use your vector dagger? And he's like, no, Sergeant. He's like, I didn't bring it with me. Like, I think he said, like, I forgot to bring it. And, he probably didn't forget. He probably just saying that, but I doubt he forgot it. I think he probably just didn't want to carry it because it's heavy. And I was like, you didn't use your fucking vector dagger? He's like, no, he's like, we were getting shot at. He's like, so I just pulled my compass out and I took a knee and popped up from behind the dirt berm and I shot a direction and I guessed the distance. He's like, I did a range estimation and I sent it in. And I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. I was like, that was accurate as fuck. I was like, we got those 2 guys, that was awesome. And I told my captain, I'm like, Lemelle should get an award for that. I was like, 100%, like what he did, like he came out while under fire and shot a direction and distance with a compass. Like, he should have gotten an award for that because we took out 2 guys also. And I told my captain, I was like, hey, sir, like, I really think we should write Lemelle up for an award. And he's like, hey, he's not with headquarters anymore. We can't do it. He falls under the company and weapons company. So you need to just let them know. And I think I shot him an email. I shot him an email and was like, hey, I think Lemelle needs to get an award for that because, it was a pretty amazing thing. And what was cool, so the whole thing was, and what I tried to do, and again, guys that worked with me as forward observers can tell you, like, we'd be out on the OP, and this is a really good drill for guys that are on observation post. You get kind of bored. You're out there, especially if you're out there for a couple of days. You're not firing the entire time usually, so you have some downtime. And what I would like to do is, you go out to the OP or whatever, and during downtime, everyone's just kind of bullshitting. Everyone's telling stories, and everyone's, that's where you get these crazy stories that we can't even talk about probably on the podcast. Because people, imagine being in a hole with the same, 5 dudes for a month. You're going to learn a lot about each other, especially some weird shit. So that's kind of what happens. Well, I took advantage of that. I'm like, well, we can still sit here and bullshit and guess how far away stuff is. And that's what I would do with my guys. I'd be like, hey, how far is that? It'd just be a guessing game. Hey, everyone, we get everyone there. I'd make everyone sit up there. And everyone can bullshit and do whatever they want, but how far away is that? And everyone would look, including myself, and I'd take a guess, and then I would shoot it with the vector and then, see who's closest. And we would just do that all the time because you can sit there and bullshit. It's relaxed. It's a game. Guys give each other shit because they're like way off or way close. And, you go to different OPs and you run that drill in different places. You start getting used to those areas like deserts, that have... It really messes up your ability to gauge a range and stuff like that. So we would do that all the time, and I hope that helped out and stuff like that. But I think that's part of how how he got it so accurate. It was great. And like I said, I think he should have gotten an award for it. We get to the end of the deployment. He's back with weapons company. He got blown up by an IED later on. Maybe a concussion, but no, he didn't have to get medevac or anything like that. His vehicle got hit down in the Sistani Gap. If you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. And anyway, we come back from the deployment, and they're like, hey, we're doing an award ceremony, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, dude, what are the guys? Because I don't even know what my guys are getting at this point. Like, I gave my recommendations to my OIC and stuff like that, but, you know, I'm not part of the awards board that kind of settles on what everybody's getting and stuff. Fucking Lemelle didn't get anything. He didn't get a letter of appreciation. He didn't get a NAM. He didn't get a CIRCOM. He didn't get anything. What he did was exactly what this podcast is about. He did something that was not required of him necessarily. It kind of was. That's kind of his job. But he, you know, under extreme circumstances, you know, that was a heroic act that he did. And it ended in 2 enemies being killed. And he deserved an award for that he did not get. And to twist the knife or throw some salt in the wound, when we got back and they do for the awards, because after a battalion comes home from a deployment, there's a lot of awards. They only do battalion formation for the awards. They were only doing them for Navy comms and higher because they were letting individual sections take care of the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal, because it's like the lowest personal award ribbon that you can get, but it's still like, you know, it's still kind of a thing. So but normally it would be a battalion formation, but there's so many guys after a deployment that have done stuff that they let the individual sections do that. So anyway, we're out here and we're standing in the formation for this award ceremony, and Lemelle's squad leader received his Navy comm with a V, and not half, but part of his citation was what Lemelle did on the patrol. That was one of 2 or 3 things that squad leader was involved in. But the fact that they used Lemelle's actions as if this guy did it, I mean, I was super pissed. I was super butthurt about it, and I think he's probably one of the guys that I think was wrong the most on an award during my 12 years, and it's so much so that I think I've told this story to multiple people. So this isn't, I mean, people that know me have probably heard this story, just because, like I said before, I think people deserve to know that, you know, he is a great dude. Or I would assume. I haven't talked to him in years. He came back from the deployment, and he ended up getting out, and I think he deleted his social media and stuff like that. So if anybody knows him, tell him I said what's up. You know, he was. And so to wrap up the story, everyone just like, hey, look out for this guy. Look at, you know, this guy's going to be a problem. Like, everyone just assumed that Lemelle was going to be an issue. And I think we do that too much with people, and it only exasperates the whole situation, you know? And I think we have a problem with people treating each other like adults, treating each other like they've, you know, made it through boot camp, made it through an MOS school, made it to a unit, you know, like at some point you got to give somebody a little bit of respect and let them be a grown up. And I think, I tried to foster an environment that did that. And Lemelle ended up being one of the best 0861s I ever worked with. You know, I can't ask more from a guy than to go into a combat zone and do his job, do it well, and, you know, put himself in danger. Like I said, you know, Sistani was one of the worst places in Marjah while we were there. So it was definitely you know, he got hit by an IED, got ambushed, like multiple things happened to him, and just no recognition. And it's just disgraceful, honestly. I think if you talk to a lot of Marines, they'll tell you that the award system in the Marine Corps is fucked up. Too many people get stuff that it just seems like, hey, like, you did your job. You know, not even like you did your job like so great heroically in combat. Like, okay. And here's an example. This is not to toot my own horn or anything like that. And this is another situation that I thought was super fucked up. I got back from Sangin in 2013, and they had written me up for a Navy comm with a V, and then it got bumped down to a NAM with a V. And I'm like, cool, whatever, I don't care, like whatever. And they told me, they're like, hey, we have awards formation. It's a Friday. Everyone's out there in Bravos, and we're doing this awards formation for you and 2 other guys. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, what are the other 2 awards? They're like, they're both, everybody, all 3 of you guys are getting NAMs. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm like, that's fine. And I was a staff sergeant. I think it was like probably a corporal and a sergeant, or a lance corporal and a corporal. It might have been. And we march out, give the salute, greeting, all that stuff. They read my citation. It's talking about, my time in Afghanistan and what I did and stuff like that. And it's like, under fire, controlled aircraft, blah, 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 blah. Did all this stuff. And the next dude, and this is the headquarters battery. This is quite a few people for the regiment. So it's quite a few people. And then the next guy was like, maintained the generators, kept them running during the mountain warfare training, blah, 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 blah. And then the next guy was like the same thing. And that's not me saying it like that is not me downgrading what they did, because I was a Lance Corporal when I received my first NAM from working on that ITV program, because as a Lance Corporal, I was the senior mechanic and I was like helping design and do stuff. So I know, as someone that's what I thought was fucked up about it is I don't think it was fucked up that they got the award. I think it was fucked up that they gave them the award at the same time that they gave me my award. Because I think what should have been a proud moment for them, like it was for me when I was a Lance Corporal and I received a NAM, I think kind of was shit on a little bit by my own award kind of overshadowing it. And I thought that was fucked up. I thought they should have done mine separately from those guys, because I honestly felt bad, because I was like, man, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like I got a NAM for combat actions. I did all this stuff. These guys also got a NAM for it was literally like running generators during a battalion field op, or maybe regimental field op, whoever they were attached to at the time. They were in mountain warfare training. And I'm not saying that I should have gotten a higher reward or they should have gotten a lower reward, or anything like that, but it's just not, that's fucked up. I think that's fucked up. I think either people will look at that like that's a slap to me, because mine, I've had people tell me that, like, it's not even equivalent to that. Like, that's after the formation, guys are actually like, dude, I felt bad for those dudes too. And I was like, okay, like, it's not just me then. I just thought it was fucked up that they gave them their award at the same time I got mine, because I thought mine was overshadowing them, and I didn't want them to feel like their award wasn't justified or worth it. I don't know what they did. I didn't know the guys, but I just, knowing someone that has received an award, you want to feel like your hard work was appreciated, and I'm sure they do, and I'm sure they're proud of that award, and they should be. I just felt like in the moment they didn't get to celebrate it as well as they could have, because mine kind of overshadowed it. And that's just kind of one of those, the whole award system in the Marine Corps is fucked up, I think. And that's just my opinion. So, yeah. We're at an hour and 15 minutes or so. I had one other question, and I don't know if I want to answer it. I kind of want to save it. It's from Andrew Demaro. He knows me, and he's heard a lot of my stories. So, man, this could be another... I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it just because it's midnight. I have Italian at 9:30 in the morning, and I still have to end this podcast and then edit it and send it up, upload it so that you guys can all listen to it. So I'm gonna save that story for next time. This recording was not. It was supposed to be an interview, like I said before, and it got messed up. I want to keep, in my eyes, it's continuity. I want to be something that you guys can get used to. Like, hey, every Thursday. I know it's coming out. I know Former Action Guys podcast, new episode. So, anyway, I just want you to know that that's the reason I did this episode this week. I have 3 interviews coming up this next week. I'm supposed to do an interview with that Vietnam pilot, man. I've been dying to get this guy to sit down. Him and I's schedule, it's just not working out. But I want to sit down and record this interview and go in depth about what it was like to be shot down over Vietnam, man. Like, that's just insane. He got rescued and stuff. He wasn't a POW or anything, but I mean, how many people can say they've been shot down in enemy airspace, or in wherever, and live to tell about it? And so I definitely want to get his story. I also have the former Sergeant Major of 1st Anglico. He's gonna sit down with me this week. And then one of the guys that was on my team, who's now a police officer, he was with 1st Anglico, and he's now a police officer in San Diego. So or he was a police officer in San Diego, and he's moved to Chula Vista. So I think he'll have some good stories about his time in Afghanistan, but also I want him to go into detail about transitioning over to become a police officer and stuff like that. Because I know a lot of guys, that's an option. That's a big option for guys that come out of the military, because it's I don't know, it's kind of a similar environment. It's kind of high paced, and you're around people. I don't know, it's just one of those jobs. So I think it'd be good for him to come on and talk about his experiences through going through the academy and stuff like that. And then I have another buddy who's in Colorado right now, who's in the police academy. And when he's done with that, we're going to sit down with him also, because he's done 2 academies, which is crazy, because he did one for the sheriffs in Colorado, decided he didn't like it, started working, I think, doing IT and stuff, and said, fuck that, and went back to being a cop. Like, he wanted to go out and be a street cop. So he went through a different department. But so I want to hear his story, and kind of he can compare and contrast like the differences, because as a county sheriff, you start out working in the jails and stuff like that, and where he'll be out working on the street. So I think that'll be a good one. Again, like I said at the beginning, I'd like, if anyone knows a CCT or a JTAC from the Air Force that would like to come on and just kind of talk about the experiences and the pipeline and stuff like that, I think it'd be good. Good information for guys that aren't in the military yet, and good information for guys that are considering doing an inter-service transfer, I think is what it's called. So outside of that, make sure to check out my website again, jkramergraphics.com. Hit up the Instagram, jkramergraphics. Hit me up on Twitter. Former Action Guys, that's number 4, MER Action Guys. And yeah, well, have a good one, and I will talk to you guys next week with the next episode. I'm not sure which one of those 3 I'm going to have recorded and edited first. I think it might be the Sergeant Major one, so that should be a good time. Thanks to everyone for listening. Keep spreading the word. I've been getting more and more positive feedback. I'm at over almost 2,000 downloads and streams so far, so I appreciate everybody putting it out there. And again, if you got any questions or whatever, hit me up. If not, see you guys on the next side.